So today's lesson is how do I introduce social emotional learning in my classroom or at home? So today I'm going to show you a super easy way to do that. Okay, so today's 5-minute lesson is our first official lesson that we can do at home or in our classroom. And it's how would I introduce social emotional learning? Well, if you take a look on the board here, I did 3 bubbles and I did it the easiest way. When you're talking about a couple different words, you want to talk to kids about word meaning. And this isn't the first time. The same as when you're talking about happy and sad and emotions, you're talking about what they mean. So how would you introduce this to your children or your students? So this is one way you can do it. So break it down into words, social emotional learning. So then ask your students or ask your child, what does social mean? And they might say things like friends, groups, maybe relationships. Let's get one more. Conversations or talking. Okay, so that's a pretty good list. Then we say, okay, so now you move on to emotional. And some of the things they might tell you might be this. They might say feelings. They might say happy or sad. Might say how are you feeling? And remember, feeling, how are you feeling relates back to our chart, our color chart. That might be something they're aware of if you've introduced that first. And then another thing they might say is changes in emotion. Okay, so we did that group, and now we move on to learning. Well, if you're doing this in the classroom, they know what learning means. They're already aware of what learning is. So they might say things like knowledge, practice. They might even say something like school. You think of learning when you think of school, right? Those might be something they might tell you. Maybe it's something that you are taught. Okay, so after you've done this and you've brainstormed, then you can talk about how do all of these things relate. So a way to connect all of these things is when you're introducing social emotional learning. So social emotional learning is relationships and conversations about emotions or feelings. And we're able to learn those things. We're able to gain knowledge. We're able to be taught these things, maybe at school, maybe at home. Maybe at home. And then we can practice those skills in order to understand more about our emotions, set goals, have positive relationship skills, and achieve the things we want in life. So you're able to kind of circle all of that back to what is social emotional learning. And once they have the concept of that, they're going to be better able to understand what those things mean. And remember, if you're doing this as an activity, they gave you these things. It's like when you're in a classroom and you set up your classroom rules. They gave you these. They set these understandings and these definitions. So when you relate back to them, it connects that information just a little bit further because they came up with those things that they put on the board. So today's 5-minute tip was about how to introduce SEL at home or in your classroom. I hope everybody enjoyed it. I would love to hear if you've done it already. Please share your comments.